Welcome to another Three Aficionados episode. I'm one of your hosts, Steve Yip, and I'm joined here with my two brothers from other mothers, and maybe not my mother. That's Daniel Ross and that's Peter Pitton. And so we're here to talk to you all about all our passions that are analog in nature, cars, watches, records, vinyl, other passions related to drinking oftentimes. And we're going to crack it open today with a little bit of Sunshine Rain IPA to go with True Cherry. Was it Purple Cherry or what were? Anyways, here we go. Crack it open. So today, Sunshine Rain is brought to you by Steve's Gullet, and we'll learn a little bit about True Cherry and his drink of choice today. And for those who don't know who True Cherry is, that is Peter.
My drink of choice today is a vodka. I think it's ginger ale with like a little bit of juice in it, just to add some flavor in it. But I don't know why my stomach was a little bit sore today, so I was like, maybe we'll do something with ginger ale in it. That will help. So yeah, that was my logic for that beverage. But yeah, what do you?
For those who can't see the video here, Peter is drinking a very red drink. And earlier I was asking him if he was drinking a little cranberry drink. And I was like, what are you on your period? And that's me reusing the same joke again. So Peter is drinking a very respectable drink, and we respect all people who are on their period and not on their period. And I'm sorry to regurgitate a little bit of departed joke there. Daniel is sporting his cowboy hat, not cowboy watch, but maybe he's wearing a cowboy watch.
I've got my cowboy watch on too.
Oh, nice. Why don't you tell us all about the cowboy ways and what you're drinking today?
Yeah, I lived in Calgary for a long time, and a couple episodes ago, I wasn't very nice about the city of Calgary or about the Calgary Stampede. That wasn't fair. I really love it there, and I love the Stampede. And there's a pretty fun tradition that you partake in when you get one of these hats from the Calgary Stampede, which there's lots of people on YouTube giving a good yeehaw. So I thought I would wear this and formally apologize to everyone that I'm sure I offend a lot of Albertans. You guys are pretty touchy, so
I'm pretty sure no Albertans are listening to this right now. But why don't you give us your greatest yeehaw?
Is that an apology even? What is he doing over there?
Yeah, I think it's a little backhanded, but I think you should just give us yeehaw and sorry and tell us what you're drinking.
I got a solid lug tread going on today.
A which?
Lug tread.
Lug tread.
Yeah. It's manly. There's high testosterone going on here with this kind of tractor can.
I do like the tractor can. Very nice, boys.
Yeah, cheers. I hope everyone's having a good day.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
And for those who also are not tuning into the video, you'll also notice that Daniel is tuning into us from inside of a burlap sack, given the textured brown in the background. You'll note that Daniel always makes the extra effort about his backgrounds and what he's wearing today. So we do appreciate your efforts. It does not go unnoticed. And that's double negative.
Gave you a trim.
Oh, you gave the bush a trim. Which bush? You better clarify that, because this is mostly a podcast.
I'll leave it to your imagination.
Well, he's stroking his face, ladies and gentlemen. So as far as I know, I can't see anything further off of the screen. But yeah, so awkward transition to what are we wearing today?
Yeah, totally. Why don't you start, Steve?
Well, I want to hear about the cowboy watch, actually.
Oh yeah. I'm calling it the cowboy watch just to make it fit here. It's my classic Vicnox field watch there. Reference number 020559364. Wow. Just for those Victorinox nerds out there.
That was definitely not off the top of your head. I saw that you strategically put your wrist over the camera and looked off screen. Well, we couldn't really see, but you were definitely looking that number up, weren't you?
Man, I struggle with phone numbers. You can't expect me to remember every watch reference number there is.
Yeah, well, this is a 116500LN with black Serichrome and black dial. For those, yeah, well, I mean, it's a lot easier to remember than a lot of other reference numbers. Also, I think I've pretty much Googled the shit out of this before getting it. It's always up. This is the black dial. This is the first time you've seen the black dial on the show today. And I think it leads into a good discussion around, do we prefer black dial or do we prefer white dial? And just for readiness sake, I got the white dial ready here and then the black dial ready here. And, you know, I'm coming a little prepared. It takes me a little bit of time, but I did it. So white dial 116500LN versus black dial. I first got the black dial, but I was begging for the white dial, and the black dial was offered to me, and I had to take it. And you know, actually, like the old, I previously had the 116520, which was the steel Daytona before they went to the ceramic bezel with the steel bezel. I had that in the black, and I preferred it in the black dial. Now white dial obviously is very sought after because of the Newman, especially the 116500LN. People equate it to the Panda dial, but it actually has these sub dials that aren't quite full Panda-ized with the black. I still prefer the white to the black dial from my perspective, but I think they're both amazing and super strong watches. They're unbeatable. I had to break the black dial out. It gets less wrist time than the white dial. I think the white dial is a little bit more sporty and you can spot it from the opposite side of the room. Whereas the black dial, it could be a few things. And I always find myself staring at similar kind of chronos from across the room. And I'm like, does someone have another Daytona there? Oftentimes it's not the case, but anyways, I'm very privileged to have both and I love them both, but I give it to white dial. What do you guys think? White dial, black dial?
You better put both of those watches on if you're going to bring both of those into this segment.
All right, it's happening.
This is a pop it off segment here.
This is a pop it off. I am popping it off.
Oh, yeah, there we go. That's what that looks like.
That's the picture of the douche with the two
double. But that's hilarious.
Doing the Wakanda Forever for those who can't see the video. So what's the vote like? Good luck. Would you go white dial or black dial?
Right wrist. That's the white dial, right? Yeah, right wrist for me.
Right wrist?
Yes, sir.
You're right. I can't.
You're right.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. The white dial.
You're right. Yeah.
Daniel?
I imagine the white dial would go best with my cowboy hat, so that's the one that I would pick.
Well, that is the most critical feature.
It is. It's very sporty for the ranch.
All right. Whenever I'm ranching, I wear my white dial Daytona.
No, I think that the black dial is like there's this incredible shine and glisten to it, and the watch itself picks up the light and reflects the light in a way that's like it's very elegant.
It's like then 3 CDs placed on your wrist with those subdials with the metallic kind of reflection. Yeah.
Now that you've said that, it's going to be hard for me to not see that. But I still think I still think that it's an incredibly beautiful design and incredibly beautiful watch. You know, I think that if I was going out and I was suited up, I'd probably throw on the black dial, but I think the white dial suits a lot of situations. Yeah, so I think if I was to have one, it'd be difficult to pick, but the white dial is where I lean towards.
Yeah, for sure. Luckily, I didn't have to choose. I just said to my wife, "You have the black dial now," and now she doesn't wear the black dial. I gave her the moon watch, and now the black dial is still mine because I'm not letting go of either. They're both, I'll never obtain them again. So I love them both. But I actually like the green dial the most of all the three. But of course, that's on another level. Peter, what's on the wrist?
On the wrist today is my Tudor. I've had it almost whenever I go to Calgary. I always bring this with me just because I don't like to leave it in my apartment by itself. So that's kind of just the watch that comes home with me. But besides that, I was kind of thinking, I was like, oh, maybe I should mix it up today. But I was like, well, this thing's classic and timeless, and you can never go wrong with your favorite watch. So that's kind of why I felt like wearing it. I thought it worked
For
for
sure.
the podcast.
Well, it also matches your camo. You've got.
I know, right? It wasn't on purpose, but it does. It works good. I like it. So
yeah, it actually really pops.
yeah,
Very nice.
it does. Holy, that's funny.
Yeah, the camo makes a pop, which is kind of the opposite of what you typically want the camo to do. But yeah, I think it's classic, and you can never let it go for the sentimentality of it.
Yeah. No, especially with the engraving on it, that makes it very special. That's for sure. Gotta say that. So, yeah, one of a kind.
Yeah, and recently we were exchanging comments about your billboard shot of the Tudor promotion out in Calgary in the middle of like a big rainstorm that we couldn't even make out, but we were like, Peter should be on that billboard because he should be 100%. The face of Tudor.
Yeah, I agree. I should be standing there with the engravement standing on the billboard so everyone can read it. I think that'd be pretty good.
Yeah, being like, fuck cancer. I got my
Tudor. Exactly. Big old fuck cancer across the.
Very nice. Awesome. Well, let's get into watch news today. We're going to talk a little bit about, I think, rumors right now, where we've got the upcoming release of the Longines Hodinkee watch that's coming up. What do you guys think about the possibility of the Longines collaboration?
I'm excited for it.
Are you?
I mean, they are an ancient brand. They've been around for a long time. They do a good job, I think, with the classic design. They've been around since like as a brand, they've been around since the late 1800s. Their logo is the oldest, longest standing, unchanged brand logo, I believe, that's trademarked of anyone, of any brand, not just in the world of horology. And they seem to, I think lately they released maybe one or two watches that was a bit too over the line as far as making it ultra retro in design. But outside of those, they've released like several watches in the last year or so. I think 6 watches in the last year. I think they all look pretty great. Would I personally choose the Longines over another watch in that price range? Whether or not, regardless of whether it's attached to Hodinkee, I'm still not really sure. I think that I would strongly consider Longines because I like their history, and I think they make an attractive, good quality piece. What about you guys?
It doesn't look like Hodinkee's website is actually functioning with the promo that's coming up on the 26th of October. So we have no idea, but we've been seeing constant flashes of promos of it being, something that's going to be historical, likely. They have a lot of like watch celebrities who have been promoting it. So it'll be interesting what they actually introduce. I find that I've never really been much of a Longines guy, but I think that I've always had respect for the brand and what it offers. And that it seems to bridge the gap nicely with the historical, touch of the past, but still moving forward. So I think from my end, I'm interested and excited. Although we've talked about all these Hodinkee collaborations, and I think that the problem is that there's so many of these collaborations that have been coming out so often that sometimes you kind of start to feel like, what is this really a major contribution that you're making? I think we've talked a bit about some of the collabs that Peter and I have been interested in purchasing. I think the best was the Timex Q that we both have. That one's great, and my grandfather's still wearing it all the time. He hates the bracelet clasp, and he's like, "This shit's broken," and I'm like, "No, it's just that's the way it is. You just." But I don't know. We'll see. I'm hopeful and optimistic, but I do feel like there's a high likelihood that I'll bulk when I see the actual sale price, kind of like how I felt with the most recent release. What do you think, Peter? You also have the Timex Q. You've bought a couple.
Yeah, there's actually, I still have one. I was just thinking about it today, but there's one other Hodinkee purchase that I have that I don't think I've ever shown on the podcast before, so maybe next podcast I'll have to wear it. And I honestly don't wear it very much, but I kind of just saw it and thought it was cool. But we'll save that for next time. But
Is that the travel clock?
No, no travel clock for my my person at the moment. But I like myself personally. I've never seen myself as to like wearing a Longines, or is it Longines? Is that the way I say it? Is that correct? Am I not butchering the name here?
Yeah. I think it's actually Daniel in his cowboy hat right now in the burlap sack would call it Longines.
Well, that's what I heard, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm saying it wrong. Okay, well, I always said Longines, so I'm just gonna keep it with that. So,
I pronounced it perfectly for the record.
You did, but your cowboy hat did not. Not to be, discriminatory towards cowboys at all.
Sense of duality there.
All of the listeners who felt like they were back on our side after Daniel had apologized for potentially offending anyone, they're back to boycotting. So
they're back mad now.
But that's fine. You do you.
That's hilarious.
I am very disappointed that their website is down, but there's nothing.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's just like a logo that says Longines Hodinkee. Well done, Hodinkee. You do not have the website up, but well, that's fine. I think we'll see. It'll be interesting. I don't think that
Hodinkee's like.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think Hodinkee's done a good job of bringing the watch community through to like a central kind of internet dealer in a way where we know that they're going to work with watch brands. We know they're going to bring out limited editions. I think we all know they're bringing out maybe too many limited editions to the point where now we roll our eyes when we see a limited edition coming out or a collaboration coming out, regardless of whether or not the run's limited. So, I look forward to the watch. I agree with you that I think that when I see the price tag for it, that or the premium that Hodinkee brings when it is attached to any kind of watch is going to make me immediately like just completely disinterested in it. That's kind of my my prediction there. Is like I will like it, but then I will see the price of it and think it's just probably out of whack.
For sure. I have a feeling they might just take this, remove the date. So this is for those who are not viewing the video here. It's the Hydro Conquest Automatic L374-24966, and I did not read that off the screen. And I think it's got a date and it looks nasty, especially with the big font like 12, 6, and 9. Like, why isn't there a 3? I hate that there's a tiny little date window. So I think that could be really improved by that. That being said, it doesn't do too much for me. So I think that we'll see. But I think that the one that would appeal the most to me if they redid it would be the Longines flagship Heritage Automatic calendar. That looks good. If you just made it not the automatic with the calendar and you drop that calendar, I think it would look super clean. So I think we need to get into car news because the car news is much more active nowadays. And there's a lot of things for us to talk about. And I think that informs my discussion and consideration of what should I do with my current collection. I've let go of the F355 95 stick shift Ferrari. And now I have a big gaping hole in my garage. Yep, it has nothing to do with our prior discussions about what other cowboy wear that I might have been wearing, maybe, assless chaps, that kind of thing. But big gaping hole, got to fill it with cars. And that brings us to Porsche 992 GT3. I think that, there's a big need here to discuss about that, the 718 GT4 RS, and we've got to talk about the 2023 Corvette Z06. So it is mind-blowing because I want all three of these cars right now. I don't even know where to start. Like, all three of these cars I want. But the sad thing is that right now I know that there's going to be such a wait because of the supply chain issues that is causing major delays and everything. So right now I've got a Golf R that's going to bridge me. Currently I've got the R. I just got a notification that it is on a ship. It is on a boat and it is heading to Halifax to arrive to Canada, and then we'll get on the rails thereafter. So I'm expecting a late November, early December delivery, most likely early December if I'm lucky. So I'm really excited for that. But that's only a short term. So what do I do in the long term? Well, there's the Corvettes out of 6. Let's talk about this. Let's get into this. I think this is the most exciting thing that's come out of the domestic, North American production cars. Currently, we don't have a lot of details. Obviously, it's the mid-engine platform. It will likely have the Tremec transmission. I think that they've been unable to put a manual transmission in these in the base Corvettes. In the Z06, we're going to have, looks like from the video that's shown about 9,000 RPM being reached, and it has a flat plane crank, so it sounds like it's a Ferrari. It sounds like the race car, the C8R, I believe. So I think the styling is right on point with this sneak photo. Thoughts, boys? Is this worth putting my name down? Daniel, I see the eyebrow raised. Both eyebrows.
I think it's going to be a pretty slick ride. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a pretty ridiculous conversations being had at the moment. It's like, if it's possible, let me put this out here. If it's possible to go for one of these and a GT4 RS rather than a GT2 RS, is that something that would be reasonable to pursue? Because if that's the case, then I'm like, I fucking love this ride. I think this is pretty cool. Excuse my language. Someone's gonna have to edit that out, but we don't do that.
Gonna edit that out.
We don't do that editing.
Fuck those people. They can leave. The cowboy has left the room.
See, me right now in my cowboy thinking hat, I like this car a lot. I would get in this car. I would drive it. I'd be very happy.
Cowboy car, 100%.
It's Richard Hammond and me. We would love this ride. Peter, you would love this ride.
Oh yeah, I would love this ride.
I get the feeling that Dr. Steve would also love this ride.
I think so, yes. At least for a short term. I think it looks great. I mean, at least from this angle.
Yeah. I just think a GT2 RS is extremely appealing.
Let's talk about it on its own merit. I don't think we need to necessarily compare it because it's so complex now. The decision.
It's a different conversation.
Yeah, exactly. I think on its own, this thing stands out and it's really strong. I really love the design of it. I love the fact that it hits 9,000 RPM. You know, that's the thing about the current base Corvettes. Their V8s are not high revving. They're still fairly low. I think it's around 6,500 that it revs up to. And then with the Tremec, I don't know. They're very powerful, very capable, and great value cars. And I think they're excellent. But this is very appealing because it has that GT Porsche formula. It's high revving, it's mid-engine, and to me, this is the best looking Corvette I've seen ever, bar none. Peter?
100%, honestly. Like, I've seen I guess a few of the most recent generation on the road and things like that, and they look fantastic. Like, they look so good. And for me, it's so interesting how they I personally kind of think they changed the game. Like, it's just for what Corvette used to be as to what it is now. Like, it's always been a strong car and things like that, but the new ones, especially being mid-engine and all their new upgrades and things like that, they're literally insane. Like, it's crazy to think that it's still a Corvette, because for what it has in it, I've never been inside one, but I have a hard time once you actually get inside it, and the interiors look unreal too. But once you get inside one, I feel like you would not feel like you're in a Corvette. I think you feel like you're in something a lot more than that kind of thing, just because the performance and everything outweighs as to what you kind of traditionally think a Corvette to be, right? And it's not that the Corvette was ever bad, but this thing's just this thing's bad. You know what I mean? These things are unreal. So that's kind of my opinion on it. And I think especially for the price point still too, they're obviously what do these things start off at? Is it 88 or it's 90 grand, something like that? 87?
Estimated at 87, but there's no there's no specifications yet. That's really been
sure, give or
reported.
take. Yeah, so just even starting off kind of thing, that's still pretty incredible for like what its capability is. I've always thought that's kind of been one of my thoughts. If I was ever to look for a car, this Corvette's always been in like the back of my mind kind of thing. So definitely well, it'll be interesting to see what it's like once a little bit more information comes out. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on it?
But here's the thing. I think you got to take it into consideration. The Cayman GT4 RS, or maybe what are we calling it now, 718 GT4 RS. So the rumors are that this is going to have the aero of a GT3 RS. It's going to have the engine of the GT3. So a 4-liter flat six that'll rev to 9,000 RPM. It'll most likely have PDK, and it'll have insane aero. And it ran the Nürburgring at 7 minutes. I think it was a short track run, but at the same time, this was a run without all of the aero active because they had the vents that were right over the fenders, the front fenders, that allow for greater aerodynamic pressures to be exiting. So I think that it's not fully mature and it's still killing the Nürburgring. I think it's a super cool car. I don't know what I would take over the other. I think that the GT4 RS slightly pushes the pace, but they're both super cool cars. And I love that it also has the swan neck rear wing that the GT3 has, but I think it pulls it off way better than the GT3. There's something weird that it just doesn't quite jive, but the GT3 RS looks way better. And we'll get into that. But GT4 RS versus Corvette Z06. This is 500 horsepower, going to rev to 9,000 RPM. It'll devastate the Nürburgring probably sub 7 minutes, most likely, when all is said and done. Would you take this or would you take the Z06? Let's start with the Cowboy. Cowboy, are you going domestic or are you going European?
This is an incredibly difficult question.
You think about that, Cowboy.
So the last generation GT4, I loved that car. I haven't driven this generation. The last generation, it's incredible. I've wanted Porsche to make a track version of their Cayman and Boxster like they had done with the Carrera my entire life. So when they decided and they made it public that they were going to pursue making a GT4 and GT4 RS, I was ecstatic, and it exceeded all my expectations. So I think as a model, it would be extremely difficult to turn down. The other side, though, is that I really love a V8 engine. I love a V8, and that Corvette has a very strong V8. I think it's that 6.2 liter V8, and it's supposed to hit 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. So like the GT2 RS is in 2.7 seconds. So like Corvette is like right there with like the big boys. So it would be difficult for me to turn that down and choose the GT4, knowing like the potential performance that Corvette has. But we also know right now what the GT4 can do. So yeah, I think I go GT2. Sorry.
You're already alluding to what you want to do with my garage.
I think I would pick a GT4 RS here. That would be final answer.
Final answer is GT4 RS.
Yeah,
Peter,
pass it back there.
Peter, what would you do?
It's like that is a very hard question. Like for me, I've always I honestly think I probably would go with the GT4 RS, just for the reason being, like, I've never been in a GT4, but I've been in quite a few GT3s, and quite a few is pretty minimal amount, but anyways, a few nonetheless. And whenever I was in them, dude, they were the craziest and like utmost like it was probably the craziest experience in car I've ever been in, nonetheless. Out of most of the vehicles I've been in, it's still kind of like set in my mind as being one of the cooler ones. So I think for me, even though I haven't been in either of them, I probably would go with oh, this thing sounds so good though. I also heard this too.
Let's see if
But for
let's
me,
see if it comes
Yeah.
through. That almost sounds
incredible.
like a Lamborghini. I would say
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
more Lamborghini than Ferrari, in my opinion.
That's what I was kind of thinking too.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
It
thought it
almost
was
sounds
think-
like a V10.
Yeah, I thought it was actually more like a Ferrari when I heard the C8R, and they were like, the Z06 is going to sound like this. But this sounds like a Lamborghini. I think we need
Yeah.
to do it one more time. Okay, that sounds pretty good.
You know, later in life, you want, like, sometimes you something happens, your hearing starts to get worse, and you start to wonder, was it one moment that deafened me, or is it just, you know, my life's entire damage, you know, like everything that has been inflicted on my body, has that made me deaf? Like, that lady can point to one specific instance.
Yeah, but
She's
she's
got
gotta
it on
do it for the
camera. It's
gram.
like, that's why you're deaf now. Yeah.
Oh well, I think that's I think it's worth the hearing deficits subsequently.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the other most important thing to weigh in here. This just is kind of a earth crashing. I think this 992 GT3 RS, the current prototype mule, looks so crazy. And from what I've heard, those who have seen it in the flesh, say that it looks like a completely different beast, like not even a 992 anymore. And I can tell just like with the camouflage on, it looks insane. The wing is so perfect. Like I've never actually been a big, maybe I'm not gonna say big wing guy, after I've already talked about my big gaping hole, but big wing guy. I think I've had a lot of big wings, but this one really clinches it for me. This is so beautiful. Like, I don't know why it looks so good to me, but it's got like the sandwich board. It's got 2 levels of wings with the swan neck. It looks insane. And then there's like crazy arrow going on over the roof. There's crazy arrow going over the sides of the brake ducting. Like, there is so much that's going on here. I think it looks insane, and I think it looks super cool, and I think it could devastate and destroy anything that has come before it in Porsche, like even maybe the GT2. If rumors are true that maybe we're dealing with a car that's maybe going to be about 550 horsepower, still naturally aspirated, from what I understand, and you know, I don't know whether that's going to be a 4-liter or if that's going to be like maybe they bored it out even further. But I think this thing looks awesome. If you got to line them up, all 3 of them, I think I got to say GT4 RS over Z06. But I think this one's the top. 992 GT3 RS still remains the king, just the way this looks. And then you can see the wheels are like, they're like the magnesium bisac wheels that are on the GT2 RS. This one is just staggering. I think this is still it for me. Peter, prove me wrong.
I think you're right. Honestly, it's hard to prove you wrong. I've always been a GT3 fan, so this kind of hits home for me. There's not really much else I gotta say other than that. It is quite beautiful, and it hits a lot of very key design features that look pretty cool in my opinion. So, be interesting to see once actually things pop up for like engine specs and things like that. I'd be curious, but yeah, for like now design keys kind of thing, it looks fantastic. Daniel, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I had avoided looking at the photos up until right now, so I could just enjoy this moment together. And I'm pretty blown away by it. I would, from the photos we're seeing, it looks like a loon breaching. You know, beautiful bird just flying out of the water. It's got these cool kind of cues taken from nature, the way that the design flows. I'm also obviously a naturally aspirated engine guy. That's my preference. Like I love GT2. I worry that, something with massive turbos on it sometimes might get a little bit, you might want to push it a bit more than you should when you drive it on public roads. But so that's irrelevant. That's the case for all of these cars. What am I talking about?
Well, that's the perfect segue to what I just pushed way out of its limits on public roads. So I actually did test drive the GT2 RS, the 991.2 that's for sale at Kulu that we were talking about. And I've been vacillating back and forth of whether it's right for me. And it was thought of maybe as a short-term purchase. It is paint to sample with Volcano Gray. Certainly not the way that I'd PTS anything, but it does look amazing in person. It's really not the way I'd spec it, but it's very staggering and it's very powerful. And, it's somewhere in between. Daniel, you and I have driven a turbo, a 991.1 turbo, I think, and you gave me whiplash when you were driving it. And then we've driven a GT3 RS. This is right in between. It punches you, has tons of torque down low, but it has the responsiveness and the rawness of a GT3 RS. That being said, I didn't leave it, breathless. I didn't, pine for it overnight and just think about it. And I said pine. I always have some sort of phrase that I have to work into every single podcast where I'm just like, can someone slap me in the back of the head? Anyway, so this is a cool car. It's very cool. It's not like an end game car to me. It's very, it is earth-shattering performance. I think partly it was also that it was a cold day and it's wearing Cup 2 tires. It was like 3 degrees out, so it had like zero traction. So it was braking traction all over the place. Very controllable. Didn't scare me, but felt like crazy power. I banged it off the rev limiter. That's how much I drive naturally aspirated cars, and I thought there was more up top. And it was quite linear, but I hit the rev limiter one time, and I don't think that was because I broke traction, maybe slightly because of braking traction, but I think that it was largely because I just have a preference of finding something that really screams at the top. And to me, all three of these cars that we've spoken about before the GT2 RS do that. The Z06 screams probably the best sounding of all four of these cars. The way it wails. This one sounds really cool. It's got crazy burbles, but I think that probably the 992 GT3 RS and the Z06 are going to put it on the top. I'd probably say Z06, probably GT3 RS, and then probably this GT2 RS, and then that Cayman GT4 RS. So it was really cool, but I don't think that it's quite for me for the long term. Now, I know that you're going to be biased, Daniel, because you love these crazy powerful engine cars. And I know you've been thinking about it long and hard, and I've been thinking about it long and hard because the important factor is supply chain delays. And when the hell do all these other cars come? So life is short, and how long am I going to be holding for? The other thing is to factor in, I've got a G-Wagon that is highly valued, and ideally I'd just trade it in on whatever car I want rather than sell it. So the GT2 RS probably is a logical decision, especially if I can get it for a great price. So I actually did make an offer on that, as well as a 458. Pretty low ball offers, because to me both are a bridge to something that would be either the next great thing that would be, again, probably a short-term own, or something that's really great that you never let go. And to me right now, with the market as it is, my view is try to buy something new, because you won't have to pay over MSRP in Canada, but it's so hard to get that. Or try to wait, or because I think a lot of used cars are so overvalued because of the current market. But the GT2 RS is probably the ideal area right now, where it hasn't gone insane, especially at this. And I like to drive my cars, and I'll put more mileage on it and probably drive down the value of this, because a lot of people who want these cars want them with no miles. So that's me vacillating. What do I do right now? I have a Golf R on the way, right? And should I really be so impatient, especially when winter is around the corner and when all three of these cars I could see myself in? So talk me down from the ledge. I don't know what to do. I'm reaching out to you. Give me your thoughts, Peter. Handle your inner true cherry.
Man, this is a hard one because, like, honestly, it sounds to me like you basically like sort of know what you want to do, or at least it kind of sounds like you know what you want to do. Maybe I'm wrong, but like, if it was me, I don't know. It's so hard because, like, I understand your concept of this car being kind of like a more of a temporary thing, kind of thing. Because as cool as a GT2 RS is, I kind of agree with you for the point of being like it's something where I feel like you could enjoy for a while, but maybe it's not like the thing forever. And I don't know, that's maybe hard to say from being like a perspective of like an outsider, but I've always thought of something as being like, oh, this would be so cool to own, but maybe once something else comes out kind of thing, it would maybe not be long term. And that's it's a lot of money to be kind of messing around with something that could be potentially just something to own for a while, especially considering what could happen with the market in the future and things like that. But I I don't it's hard. Yeah, like I don't know. Like to me it kind of sounds like you're living, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're more kind of leaning towards the possibility of, well, I guess you put an offer in it already. So, but to me, I was thinking it kind of sounds like you're more leaning towards the pass on this thing, and maybe I'm wrong, but it just doesn't seem like it's 100% exactly for you being like a long-term purchase. And I think it'd be hard to justify just locking that much into something that you're only going to enjoy for a short term. It's not that the car itself is not super badass and it doesn't have like I think the car is awesome personally, but for you maybe it's kind of that reasoning to look at it, and that kind of would be my justification for it. But
yeah, I put in a very ridiculous offer. Basically, the vector to go from my G-Wagon to the GT2 RS is likely 150K I'll have to put in additionally. I said, the only way that this makes any sense to me really is if it were 100, or if you find me a 4.0 997 RS. I don't care if I start like really eating it because I know the market's gone crazy on those. But to me, that's something that I could lose sleep on. That's something that would never have to leave my garage, and I'd just be happy to hold on to it. This, I feel like I could always get it back in the future. The 4.0, if I find it, then it's kind of a never let it go. So, I mean, this is probably fairly liquid. In the future, I could sell it. But to me, like you said, it's a big commitment. And the other factor is it's winter and I've got a Golf R coming. If it were the spring and I got to enjoy it, that's a different situation. The other thing is, does it actually clear my lift? It measures exactly to the point where my lift goes without letting air out of my tires and the 430 when it's on the top. So I feel like I probably could squeeze it in, but it'll be tight. I might end up having to find another place to park it. So, but looking at it, it is so gorgeous and it is so capable and it is such a cool car. And I feel like it would be like owning the 991.2 GT3 RS. Be super cool experience. I still think that experience of owning it was just as good as owning the 997.2 GT3 RS 3.8. But I don't know. It's a big commitment, like you said. Daniel, talk some logic into my head.
Talk some logic into your head. Well, I like if you listen to what we've been talking about logically, I think the decision is not too difficult. You know, I think logic dictates that there are several cars on the market available. Like yesterday when I checked, there were 16 available in Canada and I think 20 available in the States, which, you know, if it was a Honda Civic, obviously there's a lot more of those available, but that's a lot as far as it goes when it comes to exotic vehicles. So there's a lot of cars on the market. All of them are above MSRP. All of them are like highly spec'd out, and it's difficult to know if the prices are hyperinflated and if they will burst at some point. And by burst, I don't mean like a massive drop, but some of them might go through a massive drop because there were a couple online for like, I don't know, 600 grand, I think I saw. And like, give me a break, you know? It's like that's crazy. Then in the winter, we are entering winter, so you might have to store the car somewhere else. You might not be able to drive it for months on end. And there's lots available, meaning maybe in the future other ones will become available. Are any of the other ones that are currently available more interesting than this one? Like, that's only for you to determine. So
Yeah.
perhaps looking at the other ones that are available and contacting some of those people would be something reasonable to consider.
I'm already
But then,
a step ahead of you. I already have contacted the bottom ones and they're not moving. This is the lowest priced one. It's local and I feel like there's more negotiability in it. And Kulu's motivated to take my G-Wagon in. But I had a little bit of an awful thought. So taking advantage of the current market, I've got a Golf R in. It's coming. It's like maybe 6 weeks away. Say hypothetically,
basically the same thing.
We don't know the market on the Golf R, but judging by the way things are, it's going to be way over MSRP. If I flip it with the G-Wagon and say, here, take both of these cars, and I'll take your GT2 RS. If everything aligned, where I could just offer both, and that was it, okay, I'm in. I don't give a shit about taking a GT2 RS where I can't even get it into my garage. I don't even know how I'll get it into, but if I could take those two, somehow, if it all aligned and this car still hasn't sold, I think that'd be kind of cool. And I'd still drive.
I think it's a very cool car.
Yeah, that's the only way I think that this works out to make any kind of sense right now.
Yeah, so like I think like it's very easy to break this car right down to like the emotional, logical sides based off of what's available right now and what time of year it is. You know, like just to reiterate, there's lots of cars available, but lots of those are even more inflated than they should be. And it's wintertime. So you're basically going to be taking a chunk of cash, putting it into a car. You know, we know how investments work. I'm not going to get into explaining that. But what we also know are just like the random YouTube videos. You know, you go online, you watch a video and someone like Doug DeMuro drives it and he's just like losing it. You know, he's like, I've never driven anything like this. Oh my God. You know, like it's crazy. And then someone like Chris Harris drives it and he has the same kind of reaction, like the car is absolutely mental. And then there's like Randy Prost from Motor Trend, you know, he does a lap and he's like, I absolutely love this car. Oh my God. And the way that these experts are, and you know, people who actually really know what they're talking about, who have experienced these cars and their competitors up close and personal, talk about the GT2 RS makes this model very, very appealing as a vehicle to own. But when you stepped out of it after driving it, did you feel like $500,000? Like that's a big question for you. You know, is this vehicle to you worth what you're paying for it? And then does it make you feel as special as what its perceived worth actually is?
No, it doesn't. But like I said, from a short-term perspective, if it all aligned, does it feel as good as a G-Wagon and a Golf R? Hell yes. And even not even driving it, because basically I'd not be driving them anyways. The Golf R, I'll just be driving in the winter, and I can do that with a Civic. So to me, to go out, walk to my garage and see a GT2 RS there, and think about the alternative reality if I didn't trade in the Golf R and the G-Wagon for it, I go, well, I'm not driving either. This is way cooler to go out and greet. There's the god Batmobile there, right? Like Batman always have to take the Batmobile out, but it's on the turntable for shit's sake. So I mean, I think that would make sense. That would be the circumstance where it would make sense. Now, I mean, most likely it's going to sell before that. But if all the stars align, you can bet your ass the moment the Golf R lands, if this thing is still on the market or something equivalent locally, I think that I would definitely offer to go all in and put the R and the G-Wagon up for sale. But that's just right now. hypotheticals. But I think I need to keep in mind that this is also taken into consideration with all these other great cars that are coming down the pipeline. The problem is, when do they actually arrive? Yeah. Of all these cars, if they were available right now, what would you take? Let's go, Peter. I feel like Peter's going to go GT2.
Yeah, I was gonna say if I had no money is like an option kind of thing, I probably would go GT2 to be honest. It's just big Porsche guy, kind of hits a lot of buttons for me. I think second, honestly, would probably be the Corvette, just because the Corvette's so badass. But I think like still comparable wise kind of thing. I think you're kind of on a little bit of another level with the GT2. Not the Corvette is just it's still badass, but there's a lot of a difference.
Really?
So personally, for me, yeah,
over,
GT2.
So you'd go Corvette over GT3 RS? That's interesting.
Actually, I forgot about the GT3 too. maybe I would go GT2, GT3, and then probably Corvette. Yeah, and honestly, GT2 and GT3, I'm pretty indifferent about. Like, I've seen a lot about the GT2, and but I've also been in a GT3, and I also really liked the GT3. So I would have to, for me, it would honestly ultimately come down to actually being in both of them, kind of thing. I know I say that a lot, but that's kind of would be the biggest thing for me. But yeah, both of them I would say probably would be like first and second tied, and then yeah, definitely Corvette would be after that. But what about you boys?
Daniel?
You guys are asking the tough questions. You guys are always asking the tough questions. These hypotheticals are difficult. I think like I feel like I'm in an episode of Top Gear right now, because to me it's like, what do I want? I want the GT4 RS, but what do I like? I like going fast. I like Porsches. I like going fast. And what's the fastest of all of them? Probably the GT2 RS. Therefore, that's the one I kind of want the most out of them all. But then again, I still think I would pursue the GT4 RS above everything else, which is a weird thing to say.
Really? Huh. So here's the crazy thing to think about. Technically, I could do the GT2 and then in the future do the GT4 RS. That's the hypothetical that kind of blows your mind a little bit right now. It's like, well, I mean, I probably couldn't do, at the same time, I couldn't do 992 GT3 RS and a GT4 RS. I doubt that I could get an allocation for both, but I could go for this and then somehow eke out the possibility to get a GT4 RS. And to me, the two cars would be pretty cool. The one that you'd want to take to the track most often would be the GT4 RS. And then the GT2, I think, would be awesome for just destroying everything. Anytime you ever want to destroy someone on the street, GT2. Anytime you want to go to the mountains, destroy people, GT2. Anytime you wanted to show up to the track day and just show everyone up, it's going to be the GT2. It's just the king of them all, right? So, but I think that there are way too many options right now that I'm not going to jump into anything unless it's the perfect price, the perfect deal, or the perfect car. And right now, I don't think that the stars have aligned for me to do that right now. But ask me in 6 weeks when the R arrives. Because if all of those cars are in my garage and I'm able to say, hey, do you want these? And there's a huge markup, which I expect there's going to be. I mean, hell, a Civic Type R is going for like 10K more than a brand new Golf R. So no doubt these are going to be in high demand. So if I could just turn around and take both of those, sell them, and then walk away with this, I think that would be kind of cool, but we'll see. I think we've got to leave it at that. And with that, I think number one, we'll see what happens with the Longines, or was it Longinus collab. I think it'll be interesting, but I'm definitely not going to put and then we're going to go, I'm going maybe GT2, but we'll see. I think that there's so many great cars that are coming. I'm excited for all of them, way more than I am for the Longinus. or any other watch that's coming down the pipeline. To be honest, I think it's an amazing time, and I worry that sometimes like electrification of all these cars is taking away the golden era of cars. But look at all these amazing cars that are still coming out. Yes, we're losing some of the analog, but these are killer cars. I hope that we still have remnants of manuals, because actually the thing about all of these cars is we lost a manual. Every single one of these cars will not come out with a manual transmission. The best chance is maybe the GT4 RS, but I really doubt that. I think it's going to be PDK. So yeah, that's the only thing. I'm ultimately a manual purist, and the only reason why I'm okay with all of these is because the 430 is manual. And yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. I think we'll have updates next week, and hopefully I didn't make a stupid decision in the interim. With that being said, thanks again for joining us for another episode of Three Aficionados. Keep it tuned here. We'll have further updates in the future. Thanks again, everyone. Have a good night.
Cheers.